What's going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and it is time again for another interview. And today's interview I'm super excited for because we have the founders of Behemoth Comics. We got Nathan Yocum and Ryan Swanson on the show today. Thank you guys for taking some time and hopping in to talk about comics.
Yeah, man, definitely. Thanks for having us on. I've been watching you for a bit, and so this is a pleasure. Something to get away from all the mess going on in the real world.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So, so I said you guys are the founders of a company called Behemoth Comics.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about if people are watching and maybe have not been exposed yet to Behemoth Comics. Like, what is your publishing company? What are you guys about?
They probably haven't been exposed to us yet because I think we've only been in stores for about 2 months now.
Yeah, that's the goofy thing. So, like with the Osiris Path, that was actually our first book in stores. I mean, besides the direct market stuff. So yeah, the Osiris Path was the first thing. But I mean, honestly, the weird thing is we don't really have a mission. So like the one thing that we started whenever we started looking at doing comics was to try to find a hole, to try to find a gap, something that we could fill, because for days you got 100 different publishers, indie publishers all over the place. And so we knew that we'd have to do some kind of like niche that other people aren't doing. And so that's one of the things that you've probably noticed with like the upcoming Hotline Miami, and there's some other things that are obviously coming down the road. A lot of licensed books. Video games is somewhere I think you only really have like Dark Horse and maybe a few others dipping into. Right. But it's one of the fastest growing entertainment markets. So it's like one of the big things for us. And then we actually come from the video game industry, working in the indie market in there as well. So that's like one of the things that we knew a lot of people at those companies, so we could kind of step in. So that's one of our biggest things. Licensed books and video game adaptations, kind of cult stuff is what we like to do.
Okay.
And then on the other side of things is the original books, a lot of licensed stuff as well in terms of like foreign markets that will bring stuff over from Italy or Brazil that hasn't hit the American market. And the gap we're kind of trying to fill there is kind of like the more adult sci-fi horror, which I mean, you see a lot of nowadays, but I think there's a varying degree of quality that you're seeing. So we're trying to bring that upper tier quality and make sure that that's our identity, is that everything we do is that upper tier quality.
And we've seen some really interesting
ideas come out of the different foreign books we've been picking up too, that are just kind of we feel like are different, and their stories need to be told.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's what's so cool to just kind of get to see. I picked up Osiris Path because I saw a comic shop pull it up as a review, and they're like, "We haven't heard of this company. Like, we've got it. Let's." And they're like, "You guys gotta check out this book." And so I was like, "Yes." And I was like, "I'm in for it." And then I saw just picked up Blackout last week.
Nice.
Which was another, had no idea what was to expect going into it. And I was like, another one, I'm like, I'm here for the ride. And so
Dude,
I
was about to say, that one's crazy. Blackout's like, I think we got that. Well, actually, you know what? Both of those, Osiris Path and Blackout, we got like 2 years ago, didn't we?
Blackout, yeah, we've been working on it for a while.
Yeah.
We've already seen a lot of the second volume of Blackout, and it gets even crazier and more awesome, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then but those two books are the humorous ones because those have been around forever. So those are ones that we've been kind of sitting on and like waiting to launch, and so it's a weird cathartic moment for us because that's been like everything's been behind the scenes for so long until we got into Diamond. So now those are out, and there's more to come for both of them, hopefully.
So, well, the lead into that, I know we talked about, I had Christian on my show, who is the writer, creator of Osiris Path, a couple weeks ago, maybe close to a month ago now. And we were just talking about, how he got about, and he had said it kind of had been created for 2 years. And he kind of mentioned of how it was with another publisher at a time that then kind of.
We bought the publisher.
Helped into you guys' story. So why don't we phase into that a little bit? How did you guys kind of acquire Amigo? How did you guys come about kind of creating your publishing company?
We started well before we acquired Amigo. It was a side thing that me and Ryan were doing. We were working like in indie video games, and him and me just we got burned out, like really bad burned out, and just a lot of things were collapsing around us within like some of the license projects we were doing in video games. And so me and Ryan, I noticed Ryan specifically had a huge interest in comics. I didn't whatsoever. In fact, I always joke about it, but I'd never read a comic book really until, we started a comic book company. It's pretty humorous. But yeah, I noticed that that's somewhere that Ryan was looking to get into. And so him and me kind of approached each other with saying like, well, let's do something on the side just for fun, because we're burned out and we need to get some creative energy out there. And so we started working on these side comics in the background. And that's where we met a guy named Dave Dwanch. He's the former vice president of Action Lab. And he reached out to us about one of his books and just saying, like, I want to get in on the ground up with you guys. And we're like, we're not even on the ground yet. Like, we're just kind of drinking beer and hanging around, but cool. And whatever reason, he just wanted to hang and gave us a book. And then he introduced us to Christian, Corey, Brockton, all those guys for the Osiris Path. And yeah, and then that happened. But that happened way before the Amigo purchase, humorously. Okay. And so that came whenever we got into Diamond. We submitted to Diamond sometime in 2019 when we had those like first 5, 6, 7 books. And we submitted to Diamond, like they got back to us like 6 months later and they were like, oh, sorry, but yeah, you're good. Like, let's do this. We're like, oh, okay.
And then we started planning.
Yeah, and then everything kind of started like moving, because before that, even though it was like 2 years, like nothing really happened in those 2 years besides him and me just kind of being burned out and slowly working on creative things in the background of other things. And then once we got into Diamond, it was like everything started moving. And an awesome guy named Massimo Rosi, he's from Spain. He's now in Italy, and well, he's from Italy, went to Spain, now in Italy again. And he reached out to us about the Amigo purchase and said, hey, Amigo's looking for something right now. And basically they have a weird circumstance. I don't know if you know it, but they're in Spain. Okay. So, which is a weird thing to be in Spain, but you distribute in America because you can't go to conventions. You can't really know the market too well. So that it was just a perfect scenario where he's like, hey, I know I got good books, but my sales aren't growing. So what about you guys? And then that's just started the talk. And within a month, we closed that and announced the Osiris Path, Prom of the Dead, our first books, and the rest is history.
Nice. That's awesome. So how do you guys come about getting some of your books? So I know, as you said, Osiris Path, you said, you just mentioned Prom of the Dead. How do you guys like find creators? How do you guys find the projects that they are working on? Is it a little bit of both? They come to you, you guys go to them? How's that kind of process work?
You got the idea. It's a little bit of both. There's a lot of we have a submissions email, obviously, and a thing on our website where you can submit to us, and a lot of that goes to Ryan, and Ryan will get those and send me the ones that he thinks are good, and that's his side of co-publishing thing. My thing is more of reaching out to people. So with that, I'll go all the people that we follow on Facebook or talk to on Facebook, and then we'll find their friends and what publishers they've been at. A lot of foreign publishers, obviously. The biggest market that I think we've kind of like tapped into was the Brazilian market. Surprisingly, like you see, there's new publishers like Ablaze that are really tapping into like the French market and the Italian market, but nobody's tapping into the Brazilian market for some reason, even though the quality of books down there are fantastic. A lot of those artists are working here at Image and Dark Horse, and we're like, well, there's your PR, it's real easy. And, for some reason, a lot of these books haven't been over here. Like Blackout started over there. A lot of these books started over there that we're picking up. And that kind of gave us a head start. But there's, like I said, there's stuff that comes through submissions, like new books that we also have coming. Okay. Most of those go through Ryan. Yeah, that's it.
So you make sure the guy who likes comics and reads comics.
Yeah, he's the one that oversees that. Because I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at here. Like, is this a comic? Yeah, he's really knowledgeable about comics and the history of them and all that. So
yeah. I've got a giant file cabinet full of about probably 5,000 issues. And then we've got bookshelves upon bookshelves all around the house.
Yeah, it's completely unhealthy.
Yeah, it's borderline crazy.
Yeah, well, so much so that we actually, like where we're in right now, that me and his office is basically like a conference room. And out there is the much, much bigger room. But we end up, like, you would think we'd be out there, but then it was like we have all of these books, graphic novels, comics, and so we filled up that space with all of that. Massive bookcases everywhere out there, and we're in the tiny room.
That's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
So, well, Ryan, why don't I ask you this, and what kind of drew you into comics? And if you were a person who, sounds like you were the guy that really dug comics to start with.
Yeah. I've been into it since I was super little. My family used to travel a lot. We used to go, my dad was kind of like a traveling salesman. So I could always remember fond memories of being in the back of the seat with just different issues of like random stuff like Jurassic Park and Power Rangers and Marvel stuff and all that stuff. And it just has such good memories.
I'll say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
He's got 4 of those hardbacks.
That's awesome. So you guys said you started in kind of indie video game realm.
Yeah.
Kind of were feeling burned out with that.
Sure.
And then you're like, so let's try this kind of new project. And one of the things that you mentioned right at the beginning of the interview is you guys have connections with the video game industry a little bit because that's where you guys started. Right. And you guys are trying to bring some licensed publishing, kind of with that. Do you guys have any books that are coming out that are connected with that already that you can talk about, or?
Well, some of it.
Okay.
Besides Hotline Miami, the ones that we aren't on NDA for, no.
So, but Hotline Miami is one that's coming out soon, correct?
Yes, it actually comes out in September. It's an 8-part series. That's a unique situation, actually, where a group of guys named Day Job Studio put that together through doing a Hotline Miami 2 comic on Steam. And then the Denton guys, which are the guys that developed Hotline Miami, reached out to them and said, hey, the comic did extremely well. You guys want to do Hotline Miami Wildlife? And it was never released in English. And we were like, or at least physically in English. And we were like, yeah, let's get this over here. Because it's a perfect way to kind of segue into what we're doing and, a lot of the stuff that's coming. I will say that things get bigger from there. The games and the publishers, which Hotline Miami is probably one of my favorite games of all time. But in terms of like sales and titles that we're working on, they get massive. Going from here, there's stuff that we're working on that are multi-billion-dollar properties, and it's really cool to be a part of the history of those and to be bringing something out. When you see that game being revealed at like massive conventions, you're like, oh, cool. So,
nice.
Yeah, but it's lots coming.
Yeah, well, which is cool because I think it was in Osiris Path issue 1. You guys have a preview of Hotline Miami Wildlife, which I read. I'm like, okay. So I read Osiris Path and I saw the preview. I'm like, I am here for what this company is doing. You read those first, I think it's like 4 or 5 pages, and you're like, okay, yep, I'm in.
So, yeah, well, we appreciate it. It's a lot more of, if you like the Osiris Path and you like Hotline Miami, it's a lot more of that coming. In fact, everything is pretty much along that realm. We were really big. There's certain companies, not naming names, that cast their net wide, and they look kind of just to grab anything and look and see what kind of hits the market and attaches. We, not pretending like I know the market because I'm slowly getting into comics, but as I'm learning the market, I saw kind of a gap of like, there's some stuff here that I want, there's just not enough of it. And so that's what we're kind of doing. We have a really narrow kind of thing that we're casting, and it's kind of that the stuff that we grew up with, the Tarantino, the video games, the culty neon kind of stuff. It's all in that realm of what we found popular as we were growing up and enjoying now as we see it come back out there. So
that's awesome. That's good. So what, I guess, for someone who maybe is watching this, doesn't know, what goes into publishing books and that kind of process, can you just kind of give us a little, like, what's kind of what's it going, like, what do you guys have to do, like, as a publishers, like, as, what is a day in your guys' life, I guess?
Oh, no. it's not a day. It's a day and a night. And
right.
We're up 24/7, basically, to be honest. Like, we almost purposely work, like, opposite schedules so that, like, he wakes up earlier than I do, so I stay up later than he does, so that we can basically cover everything. Because, like I was talking about, we have a lot of foreign books, so we have a lot of creators that we bend towards their time whenever they're available. If it's 3 a.m., I'll be up. And so, there's a lot of that. But the day in the life is anything you can imagine. It's whether it's design, whether it's editing the book, whether it's sometimes lettering the book. Even we'll have to do that. Translating a book, we'll send that off to a person that we've contracted to translate it. setting up things through Diamond, solicitations, getting them ready for the catalog, the marketing tools that we need to put an ad together for the Diamond catalog. Social media is another big one. Emails, Facebook messengers, way more than emails now. It's, times have changed. It's a lot of phone calls, calling stores, saying that, this book's coming out, you need to check it out. And then dealing with creators. So it's a metric ton of stuff. And it's crazy that it's just basically him and me doing it. We contract a lot of people to help us out here and there, so it's, that we don't get overwhelmed, because we do. But right now, it's probably the perfect time that because a lot of people, this is a very unfortunate time, of course it is for us as well, but it's still weirdly the perfect time to launch for us, because we get to kind of be home 24/7, work here, everybody else is home, so we can be here growing the company 24/7.
Right.
It's working out so far. Is it? No.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what we kind of, talked about. Like, you guys are at home. I'm like, I'm gonna reach out to you guys and see if you guys want to hop on an interview, because I know you guys are at home.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things you talked about was like getting into publishing and like how does it really work. I think there's so many different avenues that if you wanted to do what we did, is where you kind of do the traditional route of going to Diamond. It's really all about the books and growing an audience ahead of time. So that's the thing that me and Ryan did for the past 2 years, is we just told people like, hey, a bunch of stuff is coming, and like, it looks really cool. And so we built a lot of hype for like a year, pretty much. Sometimes in some scenarios for 2 years, and it's a lot of that. You build a lot of hype, you build this audience ahead of time. You put your best foot forward with going to Diamond and showing them your best books you have, and just convincing them on why they should distribute to you. And that's the best way to really, in my opinion, get into comics. The landscape has changed, obviously, Kickstarter, other platforms, you can make it via many different routes, but that's the way we did it.
Okay. Yeah, so because I think it's just as an interesting concept, like, of like you said, it's interesting to hear you talk about that you guys do some lettering, and I know the dynamics of but just the dynamics of starting a company, you guys have to work with foreign countries a lot, with artists and things like that, and if you don't have a set schedule where it's conducive to it, it's like, I bet that can be a challenge all of itself. So it's interesting how you guys have kind of said that you've kind of shift your schedule so you guys can different times.
Right, exactly. Me and him both, like, when we first got into Diamond, we had the thing, we said like what's the plan, because like this is about to get crazy. And so our idea, I just realized our books are behind you. Sweet. Anyways, but yeah, we had the idea. We went back and forth of like, how do we do this? Because you're talking 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000 of print runs in the next few months. Thankfully, we had the scenario where we had the money, but we were like, that also comes with a lot of work. You got to market the books, call stores. It's crazy. You got
logistics of getting it all together and shipping and coordinating with distribution centers.
It's crazy, but we both had this thing of saying like, do we hire people and do we go like all in? But him and me both came to the same conclusion of like, we sacrifice. Like, everything that we're going to do right now is for creators. I know that sounds a little loaded, but it's true. And I think a lot of creators so far have noticed that everything that we do is geared towards them. And we sacrifice our hours, we sacrifice our money, we sacrifice everything to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward now. And so it may seem like a little crazy, like, oh yeah, 2 guys run all that? Sure. But no, we're here. 20 hours a day we're probably up and working our butts off. And I don't know, like I said, I think it's growing at a steady rate, despite a lot of things that you would think would be holding us back. No, it's actually, we're working out pretty well right now, so it feels good.
Yeah.
Nice. So, briefly, if people want to, if they watch this interview and they want to kind of hop into some of your guys' books, what are some stuff that they can get that you guys would recommend? Like, where's a good jumping off point for them to kind of dig into and find out really what you guys are about?
I think you got you've named 3, and I think you're really spot on. The Osiris Path is the perfect one for like original ideas that we're doing.
Okay.
So that's something completely original. Blackout is an ongoing graphic novel series, so something a little different where it's not split up into single issues. It's a story collected inside of a graphic novel. And then the other one you talked about was Hotline Miami. So you get the kind of idea of a licensed project that we're doing. I think those three things really kind of encompass. There's a lot more obviously to come, and even within those series that we're talking about, like obviously Hotline Miami is an 8-part series, 2 graphic novels, like 400 page like omnibus coming. Blackout is 3 volumes. 2 volumes are already complete. Osiris Path, Christian's talked about doing a second and the third, and I think a 4th arc. Yeah, because they're each 3 issues.
Yeah.
So crazy. Those are the best jumping off points. I think we have a lot of things that are coming that will obviously kind of encompass what our other ideas are. Like one in the catalog right now in the previews catalog is a series, well, a book called Found Footage.
Yes.
It's actually,
I saw that.
yeah,
Yes.
it's weird. It's in landscape format, and I got to send you I can just send you the book. It's literally like done like it's a VHS movie. So some of the pages are like static and stay like play. It's crazy, like a murder, like it's off the chain. And it comes inside of a VHS box, which I think is really rad. So
Yep.
that was so cool because I was checking out my pull list on my previews here on my computer the other night, and I was like, I want to see what some of you got, some of the book, and I'm looking, I'm like, I did a double take. I'm like, wait, Found Footage. It says it's shipped in like a VHS case. I'm like, how does this work?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's even
it took a little bit.
Oh yeah,
it took a little bit to work to get it there, but
we do have to give the artist writer a lot of credit on that though. That guy is a genius, and Marvin Rodriguez, whenever he put that together, so there's already weirdly enough, there's already a 2nd volume of that's finished and coming, and there's a 3rd volume, whenever, and but like his edition of that he shipped or like showed us had like a blood sample in it. It had like, what was it, a blood sample, like a ransom letter, like all these things. I was like, okay. But we did the VHS box, and we did like in the limited edition VHS box, there's some other stuff in there. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good one that like you can see coming up that encompasses some of the other weird stuff we got. We have a lot of that weird stuff. It's like we're just like, it's cool.
But I think it's interesting to see, like, because you see different comics all the time try and push the boundaries a little bit of like, what can we do, and a landscape format, it might be jarring to someone at first, but hopefully it helps then tell the story of what the creators are trying to tell in the midst of that. And I think that's what you got to do sometimes, is just explore the boundaries.
That one, Found Footage, is almost like storyboarded like a movie, because it's
it looks like a TV screen.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is that's the good thing about us and me not knowing comics as well. I mean, I do now, but obviously when we first started, I didn't. And so I would throw crazy things at Ryan, and Ryan, knowing comics, would be like, okay, that's a bad idea. Like, don't do that. But then some of me be like, okay, that's cool. Let's try that. So I think that's why the dynamic really works well of, it's perfect the way it is. And like I said, we got a lot more of that crazy stuff coming, like Heavy Metal Drummer, which is a series kind of like inspired by the animated show Mr. Pickles a little bit. And but that actually comes with these like little 3D models that are 3D printed, and it comes on like a little base and like a box completely custom made for it. And you get that with the comic if you buy it. And yeah, so there's a lot of weird stuff we're doing that we're just like, hey, why not?
Yeah, let's try it.
So you talked about Found Footage, kind of the VHS, some of the stuff. I know Osiris Path is single issues. Blackout was kind of more of a trade paperback that you get. Do you see like more single issues, or do you see more contained stories to like the trade a little bit more often in stuff that you guys are doing, or not really? Like there's no...
I think that's funny too, is because I'm more partial to singles and he's more partial to graphic novels.
Signals.
I would feel like,
yeah.
So if it's dividable and it makes sense for singles, right, I personally am always pushing for it. But ultimately, we really consult the creators and just kind of how their vision for their product is.
Yeah, because graphic novels unfortunately never sell as well. I mean, in terms of revenue, because they're a lot more expensive, they definitely actually sell more in a weird sense. But in terms of units sold, they're not going to sell as well as a single. So sometimes you want to get that exposure and put something like he's talking about into a single if you possibly can, because it does the creators credibility. Like it gives them, wins towards all the time and effort they spend into their project. You want to make sure they get the eyes on their book. But in cases like Blackout, that thing to me is so perfect as is that you don't want to split it up. Certain stories lean towards being split up, like the Osiris Path and a few others that you can. And but Blackout is really well contained the way it is. Plus, there's a second volume, a third volume.
Because it makes, because that's the question as collectors, someone's got to decide like, hey, do I want to invest, whatever, $3.99 in a single issue, and then, or, Blackout, I think it was like $14.99 for a contained trade. Yeah. And, so you go in like, okay, do I want to put the money down without knowing off the bat and just trust that I like flip through and go, okay, I think this is something I'm digging. Right. Or do you go, so you kind of probably have to have those conversations as well of like, this will stand on its own or maybe not, or maybe this can grab some casual readers that could then.
Right. There's a lot of things that we've talked about splitting up, but then we've said like, found footage is a bad example because you can't really split that up the way the format it is, but right. There's cases of like with that one where we're like, well, can we price this at such an affordable rate that it will sell like it's singles, because that's only $9.99 and that's 160 pages and packaged inside of a VHS box, shrink wrapped and everything with it. So you're getting all that stuff for $9.99, which is like an image price of something that you don't see a lot of people really come close to, and for 160 pages especially. So there's a lot of books that we're doing like that. Osiris Path is one of the more premium ones, and that's those guys are fantastic guys. They worked with us on that and were real open to us doing anything and seeing how things worked. There's a lot of books that we have coming out, like Cardinal Dagon, the trade for that's like $12.99. I don't want to get any wrong, but there's just a lot.
So it's kind of seems like it's across the board. It's really what fits the story that you guys are telling.
Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff that we're pricing a lot lower than I think our competitors, and hopefully getting that single audience, because I have to fight them on splitting things up to singles. So I'm like, well, what if? So yeah.
Well, because I mean, I think it makes sense. If you find a company that you like what they're putting out, or a creator, you're more likely to kind of get attached to that right off the bat. Like, I can't tell you the last time I bought a trade right off the bat where I'm like, I don't know too much. But I saw what you guys did with Osiris Path. I saw what I saw in the preview of how I'm like, you know what? I'm intrigued by the storyline of Blackout, and I wasn't disappointed at all.
Sweet.
And
Sweet.
I think too, that's which then plays into what you said of, why the job of your guys is, publishing it seems somewhat, because you've got talking with creators, but then also the promoting it and hitting that social media and market of all of that, because there's so much out there, I think, for people to choose from. And then it's trying to say like, how can we find, what's good for us as readers, and then, and how do we get exposed to what you guys are trying to say of like, yeah, this is something I think you will appreciate.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of the stuff that me and Ryan were doing is like, we wanted to, make sure that it was something that we'd appreciate first. And I think that kind of leans towards that, because like I said, I wasn't somebody that was really into comics. So by saying, okay, but I would totally read this, I would totally read the Hotline Miami comic, I think that like gives credence to somewhere that we knew like right off the bat, we were doing something special, or at least able to hit an audience that maybe wasn't being hit.
We talked about a couple of things down the pipeline. Is there anything else, projects that you guys are working on that you can talk about that you guys are excited about that's coming out, like the tell your comic shop if, hey, we want this ordered, or...
Well, did Gather already get cut off?
Yeah, Gather got cut off.
Okay.
That's a good one. That's from a Marvel artist.
I think I have a copy behind me somewhere.
Named Sebastian Cabral. He's worked on like Falcon and a few other things in Marvel. He's a fantastic artist. There's actually a movie being made for that one. We optioned that. Yeah, that one's a cool one. It's got spot gloss on it.
Show that off. And then we got a variant coming here soon too.
Yeah, and then there's that one, which is that'll be out in stores here soon. That one's a really high quality, and the movie's coming. That's filming in I think March. And then some of the bigger ones, so like right now in the catalog we talked about found footage, but there's other stuff in there like Necromorphous, which is done by Abel, which he is the Harley Quinn artist right now at DC.
Oh, okay.
and that's a fantastic series. That's also been optioned for a film by Paris Films. We have A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which is based off of like a culty horror movie. It's like 96% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, I think. And that's actually written by Anna Lily Amirpour, which she's the director of the movie and the writer of the movie, and she's doing some stuff. I think she has an upcoming movie with Jason Momoa and a few other things. So yeah, we got that one coming. I mean, honestly, there's so many that I think we're doing four to six releases each catalog. Some of those will have variants as well. So there is a lot coming. And every month we announce it on our Facebook. We will do like a banner that you can see, which has like all of our upcoming releases. There's a lot. And we're proud of every single book that we're doing. So.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because like you guys aren't going to, I feel like starting a new company, you're not going to put out something that you wouldn't want yourself, and you wouldn't. I mean, I made the joke to someone else. I'm like, I only have really interviewed people if I like their books, or like, because I'm not going to sit here and talk about your books if I don't really like it. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I can take it with the best of them, but if I don't like your stuff, I don't want to. And I think that probably is the same mindset, especially as you guys are being able to create your own kind of like, here, this is what we want to put out because this is our name, this is our brand. That you guys probably believe in, not probably, you do believe in all the stuff that you guys are putting out, which I think is a really cool thing and it's a unique position I think that you guys are in.
I think like you said, like I think every single book, you know, we're really proud of. There's a few cases where we've been on the fence about something that the creator, they're just so passionate about their book. It's like that bleeds into you. You're like, if you're passionate, like, oh, let's go, like, let's do this. Like, I'm all about this. If you bring that attitude to the company, like, we'll bring it right back. And and so, yeah, there's a few cases but every book that we have, like you said, it's something that we would put out in the first place or we'd read in the first place. And I think there's a lot of, even the licenses, when we first talked about doing a few licenses, there was a few that we were like, we liked the game, but it'll sell well, So, and then we had to kind of like get to those negotiations, and we were like, no, you know what, we need to, if we're even doing licenses, it's not for something that's going to just sell. It's something that we also like the video game. Because like I said, a lot of those upcoming ones from a big company, I can't name.
Right.
But,
no, it's fine.
Soon.
Yeah, I'll type it in chat right now. But no, it's from a big company, and they have a whole slate of like 12 classic games that are still going, massive games right now. And they were really cool with us too, because I was really open up front, like on our call, as I was saying that, well, we only do stuff that we really want to do. And they said, well, we only want you to do stuff you really want to do. And so they were like, you know what? Here's our entire library. You pitch what you want to do. They were extremely cool about it. And so they let us go through their library of video games, these massive multi-billion-dollar video games. And they're like, what do you want to pitch? And we're like, okay, this is cool. So
that's awesome. So, well, great. Well, I appreciate you guys taking some time, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but at least let us know how people can follow along. So when you guys do drop the news of some of these new books, like how do they get connected and stuff like that?
I'm really good at posting it everywhere at the same time. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you can really follow us on those three. Ryan updates the website, so you'll see things on there as well, whenever he gets to it. And just kidding. And those are the places that you can really follow the upcoming stuff. As for anything else, the creators out there or anybody, stores, just reach out to us. Like I said, we're up 20 hours of the day, unfortunately. And so like literally reach out to us, ask us anything. We always respond. We're always available. Any questions you have. Creators that are looking to get into publishing that have questions, publishers that have questions about publishing, we're here. We've learned it all. So like if, and people, like I said, to shout out like Dave Dwanch and Massimo and the Osiris Path guys, a lot of these people that have helped us out along the way with a lot of advice in publishing, to shout them out, but to also say that we give that advice back towards anybody that asks us. So yeah, literally Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and just reach out to us, follow us.
Awesome. That's so
and then also follow the Bearded Comic Bro.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, I was about to say we're the Bearded Comic Bros, like all three.
We are.
We all have beards.
Listen, that's another requirement if you want to be on my show. I'm like, I've had some people that love beards, and they gotta step up the game with them.
Yeah, slacking. But yeah, seriously, appreciate it, man. Really appreciate you having us on.
So, last question then, before I let you guys go.
Yeah.
How did you guys come up with the name of the publishing
Oh, that's actually
That's an interesting one.
No, so 2017 when we started, we had like a what would you call it? Like a just like a placeholder name. We had something that we were like, all right, let's just have a placeholder name. We're not like nobody's really gonna know who we are anyways. And we had a placeholder name, and then we finally settled on a name called Revolver, and we were dead set on it. We were like, we're from Texas, Revolver. It's like Wild West, and it's the idea kind of like of like it feels old, like rebellion, like you're doing something new. And we settled on that. We finally, and like a year later, before we're like ready to start announcing things, we're like, oh, there's that one magazine called Revolver, which we're like, yeah, we probably can't do that. And then so like within like minutes, we were like, oh my god, like we're about to announce things like within a week. We got to change names, and like him and me, we just like. What did we go through, like a font website or something?
Yeah, fonts.
We did something goofy. I don't even remember what it was, but we did something goofy where we were just like going through like where a bunch of words would be basically, and like a format of like a font that we like, and we were just like, we got to throw something together, and we just saw Behemoth, and we were just like,
we don't like this font at all, but Behemoth sounds kind of cool.
yeah. Sorry, the guy that made the Behemoth font totally sucks, but we stole your name.
I can tell you this: the people who created the Behemoth font do not follow me on social media. We're okay. And if you do, thanks for following, and they apologize for not liking your font.
I'm totally gonna send this to him. But no, yeah, that's literally how it was. It's just a chance thing. Like we were, in like most of the things that we do, we were up against adversity. Like there's everything since the beginning. We were up against not really knowing how things worked. I was up against not knowing comics. Ryan was up against dealing with someone that didn't know comics, and and there was a lot of those things, a lot of adversity for us, and we've done best where we just wing it, go last minute. We just put every bit of effort we got into it, and that's the same thing we did with the company name. It was like we were just faced with the adversity of losing the name we had, and like within a week we had to figure something out. And we were just like, you know what, and roll with that one.
We put enough passion and energy into it. We just make it happen.
Somehow it always works out.
So cool. Well, again, thank you guys so much for just taking some time to just talk about what you do and what you guys love. And that's what we all love comics, and some of us more so than others.
Well, I'm leaving.
But no, thank you guys so much for taking some time. There are going to be links in the bio of this video for everything. If you guys to follow them on Instagram, Twitter, the website, look at the website, see what they got coming up, because I guarantee you there's going to be some stuff in there that is right for up someone's alley. So make sure you guys are checking it out, and make sure you're following their stuff, because it sounds like you guys have a lot of awesome stuff coming down the pipeline here real soon. And I am excited for that, and I will be one of the first in line for some of those things. So that is awesome. So thank you. Just hope everyone, if you're watching this, you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, hopefully if it's a Behemoth comic, and nerd out.
Yes, and watch your Bearded Comic Bro. That's right.
Honestly, I'm just happy that everyone's saying our name right now.
Yeah, hold up though, because why is it so hard to say? We've watched so many people like talking about our books, but like they get everything right, everything besides our name, and there's so many different ways they say it, and I'm like,
yeah, every time it confuses me.
No, I'm like, it's Behemoth, like it's like, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
All right, appreciate it.